Welcome to Common Sense Rhode Island. This is a program where we try to make sense out of the policies that affect your life and come up with common sense solutions. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and we have with us today Ken Block.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Welcome, thank you for coming. Gubernatorial candidate as well as a businessman who has done some really good things for Rhode Island.
Trying really hard.
Yeah, you
Trying
did the
really
waste and fraud study for the Chafee administration
Yep.
that you're not allowed to talk about.
Actually, they did publish an 18-page summary. I can talk about anything inside that summary.
All right, well, we know that it was good and it actually helped to find some fraud and abuse in the government, which is always important to root out.
It's critically important because we spend $9 billion plus a year here in Rhode Island. We spend more than $2 billion on Medicaid alone. And
growing.
In Washington, D.C., the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services estimates that waste and fraud in the Medicaid program approaches 10%.
Yeah.
Now, that could be as much as $200 million a year that's lost to waste and fraud just in the Medicaid program. That's real money no matter how you look at it. And I believe it's the responsibility of every government to spend taxpayer money as wisely as it can.
Absolutely.
And in this circumstance, governments across the country, not just Rhode Island, are failing to do that. And I feel very strongly that they must do a better job. And frankly, my business helps them find some of that fraud. So
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to that.
Yeah, I just read in the Valley Breeze that they have charged a convenience store owner up there with food stamp fraud. $1.1 million is what he
Right.
has stolen over 6 years.
Yeah.
Right, and you keep wondering, why aren't they catching this?
By the way,
What you did was to help them.
they're easy to catch. In food stamp in particular, identifying that sort of fraud is very simple. The challenge is FNS is the federal agency that looks for food stamp fraud. They're overly strapped. They're very thinly staffed. They don't have enough people dedicated to the task of shutting down food stamp fraud.
And why not? I mean,
Well-
you would think that if you were really serious about spending taxpayer dollars wisely, you'd have enough investigators.
Right, there aren't. In all of New England, they have two.
Two. For
Yeah.
all of New England.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah, it's not enough. And so I don't want to get, they have thresholds at which they won't even bother prosecuting fraud. And if the smart fraudsters come in underneath the threshold and they're able to steal money at will, basically. So
You know, but I remember reading about Mayor Giuliani when he was in New York City, and he had the broken window theory, that you go after even the little crimes, because the little crimes encourage others to commit those crimes and even worse crimes.
Right.
So we should have investigators. I think it's just, it's bad on so many levels, but that it also entices other people to say, well, they're getting it, I should get it too. And before you know it, you've got rampant abuse and fraud.
And what we know for a fact is that entities that commit food stamp fraud are likely to be committing sales tax fraud. They're likely to be committing cigarette tax fraud,
Yeah.
right? People who scam one program will scam other ones if they're able to. That's a known fact. And so when you allow the food stamp fraud to go unaddressed, you're really setting yourself up for a whole bunch of other problems in other programs as well. And when governments go after food stamp fraud, they're almost never interested in the individuals who receive those benefits. Nobody, no police officer, no judge wants to see a food stamp recipient standing in front of them in handcuffs because they sold their EBT card.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, no one has the appetite for that. But
No.
where you have convenience stores that traffic millions of dollars of these benefits, they're the bad guys. They're the
Well,
ones you want to shut down
And
for sure.
this guy had stolen 1.1 million.
Yeah.
That's not chump change,
It's not chump change.
right? That could have been food for a lot of families out there.
Do you know how much Rhode Island distributes every month in food stamp benefits?
I don't.
27 million.
Okay.
So that's a good chunk of 1 month's distributions, you know, and while the food stamp dollars aren't state dollars, they're wholly federal dollars. It doesn't matter. You have
just
to go
paid
after
my
it.
taxes
That's
and
right. we all pay federal taxes
Yeah,
too.
we all pay it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's move on. I am really glad that you did that. I don't know how much they are still using that study. I know that we tried to have them do it on a continuous basis, but I don't know if
Well, you know, I get
Rhode
dribs,
Island is.
I get dribs and drabs of information since that
You can't
study.
do it once.
That study was made public in 2013, and I found out pretty recently by talking to some people still in government that some of our findings caused them to make some really big changes to how they did
I know
things.
they took dead
So,
people off, which was nice.
Right, and they changed some processes, and some other things that we looked at also caused changes, and that's really what things are about. I mean, the reason I got personally involved in politics was I wasn't happy with the direction that Rhode Island was going in, and I wanted to make change. Just change. I started a political party to make change. I ran as a candidate to make change. We need change here desperately. And the hard thing is figuring out what the most effective way is to make that change. And I think I'm really on it now, especially with the advocacy that we've done, the push to get rid of successfully the master lever.
The master lever
The
is
ongoing
gone.
push that we have.
We'll
to
see this
take-
election,
to-
what kind of a difference that makes.
I predict it will make a big difference. I
You
think we're
know,
going to see
the
a big
Democrats
difference.
have controlled Rhode Island now for 70 years.
Yep.
70 years. I don't think it's going in the right direction. So I'm hoping that changes like that, the master lever, which has helped keep that monopoly going, will make a difference.
Sure.
I mean, we also as a party, a Republican Party, we have to run harder and better candidates and that kind of stuff, but that master lever was something that stopped
Well, and let's talk
fair
about that. Look,
elections in a lot of ways.
all of the wags said, you'll never get rid of it.
Got rid of
All
it.
right, and it was embedded. The legislature didn't want to get rid of it. It was like an immovable object. But we moved it with enough public pressure and the right set of circumstances. In the same way, the lack of a line item veto is something that the legislature really
Okay,
wants.
good
They don't want.
segue.
They don't want to. The legislative leadership does not want to see Rhode Island's governor have a line item veto because it takes power away from the legislature. So
Yeah.
they're dead set. But that doesn't mean you can't get it. You just have to work really hard and build the public pressure. And you've seen a whole bunch of opinion pieces in the paper. More than 1,000 people have gone to the website, www.lineitemveto.org. And through this pressure, and the Providence Journal's written some nice editorials about it, we build, and it's, at some point, the legislature can't just tuck it into a file drawer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're at the point where we're going to get a decision, but I will tell you that just recently, Governor Raimondo was asked about the line item veto, and for the first time that I'm aware of, she publicly came out and said she all the way supports it and that it would be a benefit to her. That's the first time that's happened, and that's a big move for us because up until this point in time, she's been totally silent on the subject.
Yeah, you know, it takes time to
Yeah.
get these policies because they do chip away at legislative power. The Speaker, the Senate President, they want that power concentrated with them. I know that was the separation of powers.
Right.
That took, 10, 12 years to get
Exactly.
passed. How long did the separation, master lever, elimination of master levers take?
Bills that were submitted for 52 years in a row.
52 years, all
Yeah.
right, so we finally got that done. And this line item veto, how long has that been kicking around? Quite a while.
I don't know how long it has sort of been there at a low level. I know I started pushing it last year. That's when we started doing the public petitions and that sort of thing. But I don't know how far back the bills have been put in prior to that.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about it a little bit more,
Great.
and we'll be right back.